Denizens of the interwebs, welcome to C9, Continent of the Ninth Seal. This is an action RPG by Webzen, and we're going to talk about it just a little bit. Now, one thing I like to do is talk about the claims that video game companies make. And this one actually doesn't make a lot of claims, but the ones that it does make are kind of abundant, if you will. They're delusions of grandeur, if you will. For example, the main one that you see on their main website is that it's an unrivaled action MMORPG. Now, I noticed they're very careful in their terminology. They didn't say MMORPG because that would be slightly inaccurate, considering that it's all instance-based. There's not a massivity thing happening. At most, you'll be with a party, or in town you could see a lot of people, I suppose. But town really isn't the part of the game that they want to emphasize. This game is about combat. As for the action part, they've got that right. It's good action combat. And although it's not unrivaled, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. To say that it's unrivaled is positively not accurate. What is appropriate to allege is that the combat does rival other admirable online RPGs, such as Vindictus, DC Universe, Dungeons & Dragons Online, Guild Wars 2, Terra, which is saying a lot. To rival those is good enough. You don't have to claim that you are far and above the best, and it's really not. It's not far and above better than those, but it does rival them, and it's good action combat. Another claim that they like to make: console-style precise control. Well, now, I was expecting a lot from this, and I found that, for the most part, the controls are very good in this game, in fact. They're good, but the controls, in effect, are not super abundantly precise all the way around the board. There are skills and movements that can feel clunky. Although scarcely noticeable to the undiscerning, it unquestionably is not a substandard control scheme, but to claim precision as a selling point is somewhat misleading. It's a good control scheme, let's put it that way. Moving on, from an optimization standpoint, the game is good. It's very good. The game runs like a dream, actually, comparatively with other MMOs these days that have CPU issues. I only had a few hard drive hiccups, but I think that would likely be resolved by using solid state drives. But it didn't get a 10 in that category from me because the optimizations are visible. You see things draw in strangely while you're running along, and players kind of appear out of apparitions of themselves, etc. From a technical graphics standpoint, it's not state-of-the-art, but it actually looks very good after some tweaks. I did some driver tweaking and messed around with the settings until they were to my liking. The shaders are solid. Most of the models are well done. It does lose points for lack of anti-aliasing. I find anti-aliasing to be very important. I did get around it a little bit with the drivers, and I also used a post-process injector to deal with some of the aliasing. It loses another point for some lackluster models. Like I said, most of them are good, but some of them are a little jarring in their badness. The game also features some strange hair reflections that you'll see here and there. Most notably, if you start the game and go through the tutorial, the Knoll boss that you fight has weird hair reflections. Very strange. Doesn't look good. They should just get rid of it. Losing a point for that. Animation-wise, most of the animations are decent enough. I mean, they're not Pixar quality, but they're certainly above average. They're good animations in this game for the most part. From an art style standpoint, it's fairly standard Asian MMO style. I'm not going to say there's anything super special about this. It looks like the art style from other Asian MMOs for the past 10 years. So, really not getting a lot of credit there. As for the UI, the aesthetics of the UI have improved, actually. Or it seems like they have. When I tried this game originally back when it very first came out, the UI just looked horrendous to me. I think they've changed something. I could be wrong about that. But the UI is okay. It's passable. It's not great. It's good. Working. Passable. Looks okay. Not amazing. Not a Guild Wars 2 type of UI. Amazing looking kind of thing. If we're talking about technical sound quality, it's got pretty good sound. Some of the music is good. I was very interested actually in not only the music in town that you can hear right now, but in the battles and things like that. They have like progressive metal music, which you don't hear in a lot of games. And it's actually pretty good stuff. I definitely would recommend this game for game music. It's got good game music. The sound effects leave something to be desired in general. Some of them sound kind of tinny, trebly, strange. The voices as well, when there's voice acting involved, not all the voice acting is bad. Some of it's pretty good, but some of the voice acting is horrendous. Let's talk about control logic. The control logic, as far as the controls work, they're actually pretty good. I would have liked to see things based a little better around the WASD, QERF, 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing. ZXC. Now ZXC is there for some of your shortcuts. One interesting thing about the control logic is that they do use, like they said, a console style thing where the combos are built in. For example, a special attack might just be pressing forward, and your main attack, or forward, and your secondary attack will do something different than if you had just pressed your secondary attack. You also have combos that it shows you that work well together. You'll do one skill, it'll pop guys up in the air, and then as they're coming down, you can smack them with another skill. It will show you that that's going to work, and you practice it as part of a quest and whatnot. I like that. It's good. As far as the execution of how these controls come out, for the most part, I like them. They're good. Like I said before, they're not as precise as advertised. They can feel slightly clunky sometimes, but for the most part, they are above average controls as far as the execution and programming and whatnot. Now, coming back to the UI, it looks okay, but is it functional? I find it to be rather functional. It's fairly standard. The only exceptional thing that I really could notice would be the thing on the side there that you see now, where you can kind of just search any NPC. That's one neat thing. The UI, when you leave town and select a dungeon, is actually very functional compared to a lot of other things. If you take another instance-based game like DDO, or another instance-based game like Vindictus, they don't have nearly as functional and useful as a dungeon selecting UI as this game does. It's definitely going to be rated high for that. From an innovation standpoint, this game, well, I'm not sure what to say about it really. It innovates in some respects in that it's bringing a few of these console style combos and things to the MMO market. Other games had already beat them to the punch as far as being straight action games and whatnot. So I can't really give them innovation points there. I can't really give them innovation points anywhere. It seems like everything that you do see in this game, you can at least see somewhere else, for the most part. Now, I'm not totally experienced in the game. There could be some things that I'm not aware of that are in fact true innovations. But as I see it right now, it's not an innovative game, but that's okay. I mean, you don't always have to have that to have a good game. Sometimes the familiar things are better. Take a look. I don't want to talk about other games right now, but just for a moment, if you look at Path of Exile, it's a throwback kind of game, and it works. People love it. This game, I don't find as a throwback, but it does take a lot of things that work and mesh them together. Now, the number of features is seemingly low. It's got crafting, it's got a map system, it's got a selling system, it's got good combat, it's got a dungeon system, raids, PvP, all that I'm not really sure. You know, like I said, I'm not very experienced in the game. At a later date, I may interview some very experienced players about some of these things. The PvP specifically, the balance issues with PvE and PvP would be interesting to interview experienced players about. Or maybe even the developers. The thing is, though, I don't really trust the developers. If I interview developers, it seems like they just like to tell you what you want to hear. If you interview experienced players, they will typically tell you the truth. Although it is what they believe to be the truth, which is not always the end-all truth. Let's see here. Let's talk about the way it executes said features. Really, it executes what I've seen very, very well. Especially in regards, like I said, to the action combat, dungeons, and whatnot. It feels a little bit like DDO. No narrator, which is a shame. But the dungeons themselves feel a little bit like DDO, if not slightly worse. The functionality of the waypoint system, they use the path engine, that's very nice. Like I said, I didn't do any PvP, I didn't do any raids, I didn't do any of that kind of other content. The functionality of the skill system is quite nice. In fact, I like the way it works. You can go through and just select plus and minus, you get skill points for leveling up and whatnot. I don't know if it shows in this video, I'm sure it does at some point. But the skills, the way you level up your skills is neat. It does make you run back to a trainer, which I often find to be busy work. But it's okay overall. Maybe I'm just rambling. As far as a skill requirement, from what I played in the game in the beginning areas, it was really easy. Even when you go into the higher difficulties, I never died. I feel like when you go into somewhere and it says expert or master difficulty, you should have to try a few times, especially when it's telling you that you should go in there with 3 people. Well, you don't. It's actually really easy. I take that as a good thing in one way and a bad thing in another. It's a good thing because players will be able to introduce themselves to the game quite easily. It's a bad thing in terms of balance. Maybe I just selected a class that's OP. I don't know. In terms of balance, it's a bad thing for PvE because you don't want to just face roll through the entire game. What fun is that? Now, if we talk about PvP, from what I did see, I saw some duels, and they actually were quite awesome. Like an epic fighting game battle. I mean, what you're going to see here is nothing compared to what I was seeing in the real PvP duels. I watched a streamer do a few PvP duels, and they were just excellent. Nothing like this garbage here. You know, I didn't even know how to play at this point. But the real duels, when you actually know how to play, are just off the walls good. Probably the best I've seen anywhere. So that's something to take into account. If you like PvP dueling, this might be a good game for you. As far as perhaps a learning curve, just to be random as hell, we'll talk about a learning curve now. The learning curve's pretty low. I mean, it tells you where to place your little skills, 1, 2, 3. Tells you, if you follow the tutorial, it's very straightforward. The controls are intuitive, for the most part. I would say, at a medium level, there might be a learning curve as far as getting the right combos going and whatnot. But I'd say overall the learning curve is low, which is a good thing. You want the learning curve to be low at the beginning, but ramp up at the end, so that you can really become an expert in the end game. That would be the mark of a good game. Now, I didn't make it to end game here, so I can't tell you if that really happens. But I can tell you that the beginning is good. It's got a good beginning learning curve. I don't know what else I really want to say about it generally. Maybe we can commentate on what's happening in some of this video. Looks like we're about to do a dungeon. We are going to the Goblin Forest to drive our Staff of Justice up enemy anuses, which is always a good time. We'll spin them around a few times and leave them with a gaping hole. One thing, I put this game on a hard drive. I would recommend putting it on a solid state drive. It does have long loading times. So here we go. At this point I had no idea how to play. Just spamming one thing. You can see, you know, in this level, for example, the graphics look pretty good. It's all pretty smooth. Nice looking skills, nice looking animations. It's actually a lot of fun when you are smashing enemies with your legendary staff, laying the veritable smack down on goblins and spiders and whatnot, as anyone would expect. Now, if you notice on the right hand side, it gives you a little combo. Of course, if you make a certain number of hits in a certain amount of time, you will get another addition to your combo. It also gives you a rating on the side. I haven't figured out how exactly it rates these things, but I'm sure a quick forum search would probably divulge plenty of information about this from people either who have researched it or probably from the developers themselves who would like to explain their game mechanic. Either way, that's an interesting thing. You receive a score at the end of the dungeon of how well you did. based on some of those things. Like right now I have a B grade kill. There's a style rating, which I'm not entirely sure how it would rate your style, but it does. And of course the combos, I assume getting really good combos gives you a better rating. These are all assumptions, but as you can see, I don't even think I've been hit yet. It's all fairly easy. And this dungeon in particular is a short one. We're just gonna go kill the boss now, the Goblin Lord. And it gives these things in the tutorial thing. It said you can recover your HP and MP from these things. And then I walk up to it and it only gives me HP, but I needed MP. Because then I start trying to shoot these guys and I don't understand why it's not working. But then I see I don't have any MP. So then we figure out that we can drink a magic potion. And then we'll be back in business. Here we go, killing the Goblin Lord, who likes to shoot balls of light. Yeah, he likes to fling balls at people. He learned that at, well, he was a ladyboy in Thailand. He learned the great art of ball flinging and shaft holding. So he holds his shaft and he throws his balls. But nonetheless, he's going to be defeated today by the legendary staff of anal rape, which shoots its own brand of balls. Oh, come on, die already. There we go. Killed him, stage clear. Now you can see your score when you do this. I guess rank S is good. Super. I get 3 keys. You unlock these chests, which I finally figured out. And they give you stuff. Well, as we all know, stuff is good. So, get more keys, get more stuff. Oh, and it also gives you like a day of the week. I don't know, you receive a bonus or a penalty or something after you've done that one every day. Not too sure about all that. Anyway, this has been Continent of the Ninth. I hope this was informative enough, if not entertaining at the least. Chances are it was pretty boring, but the game is not. So check out the goddamn game, will ya? Especially if you like action MMOs. Head over to the WebZen site and check out that game, and perhaps some of their other garbage games. This is probably the first game I've seen from them that is not garbage. Anyway, you're all superstars, epic heroes of Whiz Bang Bus Bambaloo, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.